Jonas Salk, a leader and a legacy. In 1934, a man graduated from the City College of New York with a bachelor's degree in science. Nobody knew what this man would do with it. This is the story of Jonas Salk. Jonas Salk was born in New York City on October 28 in 1914. His parents worked as clothes makers and made barely enough for the family to live on. The oldest of 3 children, Salk worked very hard in school and wanted to become a lawyer when he was little. When Salk was 13, he applied for Townsend Harris High School, one of the toughest schools in New York, and worked very hard there.
My father's children were the first of their respective generations that went on to college. So there was something special in the household that was very nurturing for, shall we say, advancing in the world, getting ahead.
For his undergraduate, he went to the City College of New York and graduated with a degree in chemistry.
But whether it was in business or in law or in medicine, so to speak, was not of great concern.
Going on with what his mother thought was best, he decided to go on to medical school. While at NYU, he was in a medical fraternity and took a year off to study biochemistry. He was later given the option to change his major to biochemistry, but decided to keep it medicine under the conditions he would never become a full practicing doctor. After graduating from NYU, he decided to go to the University of Michigan and help Dr. Thomas Francis Jr. develop a vaccine for influenza. Influenza was a big problem during World War II, and there they developed a vaccine that helped scientists make the vaccine that we use today. After seeing his work with the influenza vaccine, the March of Dimes, a government organization that asked people to send in $1 to help with polio research, asked Salk to join the polio fight and help develop a vaccine against polio. Salk accepted because this would give him his own lab to work in. Poliomyelitis, which is caused by poliovirus, is usually spread through the stool of an infected person. If it comes in contact with your body once, you're okay. But if it comes in contact again, it enters through the mouth, it multiplies in the throat, and then it spreads through the central nervous system, through the bloodstream, and causes paralysis in 1% of the infected. Polio was a national scare, but nobody really knew how it was spread.
During the epidemics, it was, pretty devastating with a lot of very young children, myself among them, being affected by the infection and its sequelae, the remaining, problems that they had after.
Vaccine, a substance that is usually injected into a person or animal to protect against a particular disease. Vaccines were usually weakened live strands of the virus, but this wasn't very effective because people would still get sick because they were being injected with live strands of the virus. Jonas Salk had the idea to use dead strands of the virus. That way the body would still create antibodies, but it would never become infected or get sick. This was very different from the conventional way, and a lot of people thought he was crazy for it. The history of vaccines all starts with a man named Edward Jenner. During his time, smallpox was a huge scare and nobody wanted it. Jenner decided to inject a boy with pus from a milkmaid scab, which was cowpox, a less severe form of smallpox found on cows' udders. The boy got sick from cowpox but was protected from smallpox. Edward Jenner is considered the father of vaccines and has influenced many people in their creation of vaccines, including Jonas Salk. After Salk accepted the challenge from the March of Dimes, he was given his own lab at the University of Pittsburgh in Pennsylvania. His team worked very hard on the vaccine, and eventually it was ready for testing. He decided to test it at the D.T. Watson Home for Crippled Children, and he injected around 43 people on July 2nd in the year 1952. After injecting kids at the D.T. Watson Home for Crippled Children, he went to the Polk State School and injected children there with his experimental vaccine. In 1953, he announced that he would be personally responsible for the vaccine and that his family had been among some of the first volunteers to take the vaccine. Jonas Salk's next task was gaining the trust of Americans so that they would put an experimental vaccine in their bodies. Would some people not do it because of the new concept of the dead strands?
Some people were, but most people were scared of getting the disease so much that there was no question about wanting the vaccine.
Over 1.8 million school children participated in the field trials for the new polio vaccine. It was said that more people knew about the polio vaccine than the number of people who could say the president's full name. The children who took the experimental polio vaccine were called polio pioneers and played a big part in the analysis of the effectiveness and safeness of the new polio vaccine. Jonas Salk spent more than 2 years analyzing the data from the field trials, and he never took a day off. On April 12th in the year 1955, the polio vaccine was declared safe and successful. Salk was an international hero overnight, and people from all over the country celebrated that polio had finally been defeated. Salk was admired for taking on a terrible disease and defeating it. After the vaccine was declared successful, it was produced and shipped all over the world. And guess what? Salk never made a dime off the vaccine because he didn't patent it. Glaxo, a company in England, started making the vaccine. They shipped it all over the world, to Canada, Sweden, Denmark, Norway, West Germany, the Netherlands, Switzerland, and Belgium. By the end of 1957, over 100 million doses had been given out in the United States. In more recent years, Salk has helped eradicate polio. In 1993, China vaccinated over 80 million children and only 5 cases of polio were reported. By 2014 in India, no cases of polio exist anymore. By 1991, polio was extinct from Latin America and the Caribbean. Jonas Salk's legacy in later life. After all the polio commotion died down, in 1966, he opened the Salk Institute in La Jolla, California, a neighborhood of San Diego. He built the Salk Institute with the help of the National Foundation to give future scientists a place to work and a modern lab to work with. After building the Salk Institute, his next research project was trying to find a cure for cancer. When he realized that would take a long time, he decided to start a new research project on a new virus that plagued the nation, HIV/AIDS. After graduating from medical school, in fact the day after, Salk married Donna Lindsay. They stayed together and had 3 children, Peter, Daryl, and Jonathan, but in 1968 they divorced. In 1970, Salk married Francoise Zillo, who was the former mistress of the famous artist Pablo Picasso. The two stayed happily married until Salk's death. Jonas Salk died from heart failure on June 23rd in the year 1995 at the age of 80. Jonas Salk's legacy will live on forever, with schools named after him in various states and his biggest legacy, the Salk Institute, to help future scientists with their research projects, and also the 2 vaccines he created, the influenza vaccine and of course the poliomyelitis vaccine. Salk will be remembered forever. Also with awards and scholarships to help future-minded scientists. I admire Jonas Salk for taking on polio and defeating it and making sure that future generations will not have to deal with polio. Jonas Salk will be known forever and he deserves to be known forever. Hope lies in dreams and imagination and in the courage of those who dare to make dreams into reality. Jonas Salk.